Sahana vavatu, Sahano bhunaktu, Sahaviryam karavavahai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So we've covered section 1 of the text, which is talking about the nature of the Drik. And the discernment was between whatever is seen and the seer, in whose presence these are coming and going. And this coming and going, these are objects, these are forms. And these forms are arising out of something, right? Every form has an origin. Every creation has an origin. So the second section wants to talk about then what is this origin from which all of these drishyas come from, right? There are so many things in this universe, and we need to kind of, understand, because if I just sort of leave now and you say, oh, great, this is Drig Drishya, but then how do I explain this universe? How do I explain these forms? And why is there a universe? How did the universe come? And why did the universe come? And why are we here? Why could this Drik not just remain as the Drik and there's no problems, right? So now, well, that's not the case, is it, right? There is a world, and so we have to kind of, talk about the world and its origins. And so far we've talked about the three bodies. See these three bodies, right? The individual is just another kind of a creation, right? Out of many, many creations in this world. Now, the question is, what's the difference between something that is sentient and insentient? So suppose you say a rock, right? And you say, an animal or like a snake. Then what's the difference if everything is one reality? Then what's the difference between something that is sentient and insentient? And the difference is the insentient, right, only has the physical aspect to it. It's still the reality, right? It's not apart from the reality, but it only has a certain kind of dense matter, which is making like, the rock or, like water, right? Or fire or wind. This is all insentient, right? So then what makes a sentient being? And a sentient being is something that has another body, which is called the subtle body. So this means that the material, the gross material, has to have some kind of an accommodation to host something that's much subtler, right? So for that reason, we have a brain. Your heart can't store your subtle body. Your lungs can't store your subtle body, right? Your legs can't store your subtle body. We have a specific instrument for that called the brain, yeah? So for the brain to kind of, to function, it has to receive the functionaries, right? These functions of the subtle body. So now when the scientists, they can only see how much? The scientists, when they look at your brain, they're only looking at this much, right? And they kind of say, well, this is all who you are. You're just a physical brain, and that's all there is to a human being. So you need one more methodology to show you, through certain reasoning and logic, to show you that you can't be your thoughts can't be the physical brain, because, in other words, your thoughts are not isolated to your physical brain. Because, look at this, your brain can be in here, but you're somewhere else, right? But your body and your brain is very much here. So just a little small thing like that shows you there's a capacity, a different capacity that is, right, that the brain enjoys, which is what we call the subtle matter. Another thing is, like I said, I can see your physical brain, but I can't smell your thoughts. I can't hear your thoughts. You also can't say that you don't have thoughts, right? And because everyone knows there are thoughts, but they're much subtler in nature. They're able to travel very quickly to the other side of the world. They're able to imagine something very quickly. But the brain is just slow, it's like chemicals, electrical impulses, jelly-like matter, right? So therefore, the difference is this subtle body. However, the question then comes, Whether we're talking about the gross body or the subtle body, then where did the gross body and subtle body come from? And the next verse wants to start that conversation. Not just the gross and subtle body, but the whole universe. So verse 13. Shakti dvayam hi mayaya vikshepa avrti rupakam. Vikshepa shaktihi lingadi brahmanda antam jagat sajet. So what the verse is saying is, right, this reality, this drik, which is only one in this universe, it enjoys a capacity to manifest the entire universe. And this capacity, kind of like this, this awareness, okay, it's a symbolic picture. And see how there's a person standing, right? Inside its belly is this whole capacity to form a universe. Now, you can't see that capacity right now, right? Because it's kind of like in your stomach. But when it manifests, what do we see? We see the entire universe. So the capacity, which is which we call Maya, it has no existence, just like anything else has no existence apart from this drik, because the relationship between this capacity to manifest the universe and this drik is a satya mithya relationship. So this means, for example, if you're, for example, a woman, right? And the woman, suppose she doesn't have a child, and she has the capacity to produce a child. Yeah? But if she doesn't produce a child, does that define woman in any way? Like, does it like make her less? Does it make her more? Does it, make any statement about her? No. So the capacity to make a child is what we call her incidental blessing. She's blessed with this capacity to develop a child, and it's an incidental thing. So what does incidental mean? It is entirely dependent upon her. Without her, right, there can be no child, right? So in her, no matter where she walks, where she goes to, whatever conditions she has in her life, at any moment she can make a child. Suppose she's a healthy woman. So what's the relationship between the ability for her to make a child, or that capacity, and the woman? What's that relationship called? Satya Mithya. Now, why is it a Satya Mithya relationship? Because the woman can, because the woman remains woman, whether, right, she has a child or not. She is, right, independent. The ability to make a child doesn't define her, but the child-making capacity entirely depends on the woman. Okay, is the woman only that capacity to make a child? She's much more, isn't she? So in other words, the capacity doesn't define her. Whether she decides to make a new world of itself, a new intelligent world or not, she remains, and even when she does make a child, right? Even then, she still has that same capacity to make another child. Okay, so it's a Satya Mithya relationship. And what is this capacity in consciousness, right? We call this Maya. And Maya just means all knowledge and all Shakti. So there's not one thing that's kind of like, outside of this. It includes all of the Shakti that's possible. So your Shakti, your power to make, as a woman, right, to make a child is Maya's Shakti. Your Shakti to sing is Maya's Shakti. Your Shakti to work things out is Maya's Shakti. Your Shakti to learn to walk is Maya's Shakti. Your Shakti to, to kind of create something new out of nothing, like make a program or something, is Maya's Shakti. Whatever capacity, whatever strength you have is Maya's Shakti. We have yogis, right, who kind of learn these special things. They can, walk, apparently levitate and so on, even though we haven't really seen that ever, right? But whatever, right? They can do these special things. Some people have karate skills, and they can, I heard, kind of stand on one single finger, your whole body's up, and then you're holding yourself on one little index finger. Amazing. Some people go to the gym and they have big muscles, and then they kind of, hey, look at me, I'm a big person. And what other powers do we enjoy as human beings? What other powers do we enjoy as human beings?
You can imagine.
Huh?
You can imagine imaginary powers.
Yeah, imaginary. Yeah, even to imagine, right? Even to imagine, is that a power? Even that is a power given, right, to the person. What other powers do we have that we enjoy, that we can't live without?
Creative, inventive.
Yeah, to invent things, to be creative. Now, when you're creative, what does that include? It includes a certain, right, ability to draw the facts from different parts, right? I need to bring in the memory. I need to kind of work things out. But what else does it mean to be creative? Does that include knowledge? Because you're always creative about something, right? Your creativity always includes some information, some knowledge about something. So not only Maya is it all Shakti, it's also all knowledge. So this means every knowledge that you can ever conceive of or that you ever thought is yours, it's Maya's knowledge. Any knowledge you ever thought, like inventing a plug or a light bulb or AC electricity, like Nikola Tesla AC electricity, DC electricity by Thomas Edison, right? Whatever it is, any mathematician who's like quadratic equations and prime numbers, all of these things were discovered. So it's not like they were just like for the first time created. They were already in potential, and the person tapped in with a certain mindset, and he extracted what was already there. Because Maya is all knowledge, all power. So you're always ever drawing from Maya. You're never kind of drawing outside. But Maya has no existence apart from consciousness. You see? So what the verse says now is this Maya has a twofold capacity. And the first capacity is Vikshepa Shakti, which is the power to project or manifest a universe. So this is why we have this picture here now. This is Vikshepa Shakti, right? And so the reason I put this little hand there is it's kind of like, that power. Like I have the power, and this power has no existence apart from consciousness. And when this power, right, activates, when this power is active, then from its all knowledge, all capacity, that means the blueprint for how things are, the laws and orders, gravity, biological laws, psychological laws, how things are to work, to be put together, what happens when there's a cause-effect relationship between two things. If you look at a cell of a human body, like one cell grows into or divides into 4 cells. Right now, where does this knowledge come from? Right? What tells it to grow into 4 cells and then into 16 cells? Where do you find this? Like it's just a cell. Where's this intelligence that's causing? Where's this knowledge that's causing the cell to divide so much so until it produces a fetus, right, or a zygote? And not only so, it started with a single cell organism, divided, multiplied until eventually what happened? It started to form itself into a shape, like arms. You've seen the little thing on YouTube, right? On arms and legs, and you kind of start to make out a human being. And eventually, what happened? It starts to create separation between the arms and the torso, and starts to form the head, and then it starts to form the brain, and the entire organism is put together. Okay, so out of its total blueprint for all things, how they are to work, connecting the past, present, and the future, storing the causal body keeping track the causal body for every person. If you do something, tomorrow, that result comes back to you, not to someone else. Are you keeping track of that? No, you just show up tomorrow, and tomorrow gives you that. This is an order. This is an intelligence. that perfectly keeps track of a cause-effect relationship for trillions and trillions of living beings throughout the universe. This is not the only world, by the way, that we have. This is just one of the many. In the Vedas, it talks about, the 14 lokas, and then it's just, right, one of the, it's not just 14 lokas, but then Brahmanda, right, the whole cosmos, infinite Brahmandas.
Are there also universes?
So when we say universe, the definition of a universe, Jagat, is time, space, and all of the objects accommodated by time and space. Now, when I say objects, I'm also including different worlds, different worlds. So by definition, there's only one universe, but in that one universe, there are infinite worlds populated by different beings, different jivas.
But only one universe.
Because all time, all space, one time, one space, right? Which is seen differently from different standpoints. So from our Earth standpoint, that same time and space is very different than someone in heaven. So it's one time, one space, and that we call universe, one universe. Now, this is a little bit kind of a conflict with the modern science because they will say there's parallel universes. Yeah, I'm saying there are infinite universes according to the Vedas, but if you just define universe, Jagat in Sanskrit, Jagat, then that Jagat has infinite worlds. Infinite worlds. So we don't kind of use the word universe, but Jagat, which is all time, all space, time and space, right? For example, at the time of creation, we have, the Big Bang, for example. Now, before, right, the Chandogya Upanishad says, Sat eva saumya agra asit ekam eva aditiyam. So this is from Chandogya Upanishad 6.2.1. So what this means is, before all this came, what's all this that came? Yeah, this person that's here sitting now, this one that's talking, the world, the birds, this fan, right, the materials, everything. Before all this came, what was there? Sat eva agra asit. Existence alone was. And what kind of existence was it? Ekam eva aditiyam, one without a second. Okay, there was one drik without a second. And then what happened? It's Maya Shakti, which is all knowledge, all power, right? It manifested the universe. It manifested the universe, and then what happened? How did it manifest the universe? Before we discuss then what happened, how did it manifest the universe? Vikshepa Shakti, which manifests both your gross and subtle body. And when it does manifest gross and subtle body, is it a random putting together? Like, are you like, just, if you look at your body, there's a structure there. A heart is in the center for a reason, right? So it can kind of, be a center from which blood can be pumped out, right? Your arms have, why not 6 fingers? Why 5 fingers, right? Why not 3 legs? Why 2 legs? I just ask this question because if you had 3, for example, you have too much. You don't need so much legs, right? So there's an intelligence that determines how a jiva is to look like. In Tattva Bodha, we talk about this template, which we say from this Maya Shakti comes, the first things comes space, right? And space is the subtlest element from the first element that manifests. The second power is Avarana Shakti. So when something is projected, what happens? How do you create Dvaita? How do you create a difference? How do I, for example, create blue? I have to hide red. I have to hide green. How do you create an arm? By hiding information on how to create a leg. How do you create a woman? By hiding information, a certain kind of information that creates a male orientation. So Avarana Shakti is that power which hides certain information from all knowledge, all power. Okay? So look at this. All knowledge, all power has the capacity to manifest the universe. Okay? To manifest an ant and not a lizard, then I have to hide certain information to create an ant and hide certain information to create a lizard. So for example, a bird, I like this example, a bird knows which twigs to pick outside, how brittle they need to be, how flexible they need to be, which location they're found, under which trees, and by that information, it builds a nest which is waterproof, most likely, and maybe even windproof. Now, suppose I tell you, please go make a nest for me. Do you have that information? We have to learn that from a bird. The first thing that you and I will do is go outside and start to look for nests, and we will try to copycat the nest, and then we'll say, look, I've created it. So from the bird's standpoint, that information is not hidden. From our standpoint, that information is hidden. A raccoon knows how to, it doesn't know how to peel a banana, but a monkey is given that information. So the way that you create differences in the universe is you hide certain information. And what is hidden for every single human being? Knowledge of who you are. That's why nobody knows who they are upon birth. Nobody. That's why we're born, right? Because we think we're this much. So what creates all of this kind of, I don't know. When you say I don't know, that's because of you're hidden that information. And to unhide that information, what do we need to do? To unhide that information. You need to look into the knowledge that addresses that subject matter. So we've been unhiding information for the longest time ever. We've been unhiding how to be a cook, unhiding how to be a great orator, how to make money. But one thing we have not unhidden, which is why everyone's born, is what is the nature of who I am. It's only when you unhide that through your own efforts, then you destroy that ignorance, because that's what knowledge does. Until I don't know, I suppose I don't know, for how long are you not going to know?
Until you know.
Yeah, for how long are you not going to know something? And therefore it's going to keep on producing problems because you don't know it. For as long as you don't know. But you're given the capacity to know. And the moment you know, then the problem simultaneously is no longer a problem because you've solved the problem. Okay? So Maya has two powers, power to project and power to veil. When this power manifests the universe, as we have in this picture over there, when it finally manifests the universe, then that same power, which now we just call Maya, which is all knowledge, all power, in potential, we call it Ishvara. Okay? So it just changes a name for the sake of having a better relation with it. Just like the moment the woman has a child, she changes name. What is her status now? Mother. But she's still intrinsically the same woman. Okay? So it's not like when she's a mother, she's kind of like, more, she's still the same woman. She's not more or less, it's still the same woman. So in that same way, when this power gives birth to the whole universe, then we call Maya the cause of the universe, Ishvara. Okay? So in English, we have different names like the Lord, right? Or God. So this is Ishvara. So awareness is the reality. This is the reality of all things. Awareness enjoys a power called Maya to manifest the universe. Maya is all knowledge, all power in potential. When all knowledge, all power in potential finally manifests the universe, then from the standpoint of manifestation, we call that all knowledge, all power, Ishvara, the cause of the universe. Okay? So now, what is this Ishvara, this knowledge and power? You can appreciate it in 100 different ways. For example, if you want to become a doctor, how long does that take? 7 years, right? 10 years plus, right? Now, what is, like, you want to learn anatomy. It's the hardest topic ever. There's so many terms to learn just about the human anatomy. So for every part, there's just hundreds of terms. So that's how intricate every part is. Okay? And now suppose you want to learn just one part of the human body to become an ophthalmologist, to study the eyes. So that's another 2 years of specialty. And then you say, you know, I want to study the retina, just the retina, or the iris of the eye. That's another 1 year of knowledge. So look at how much data there is in just the anatomy, in just the eye. And the eye, for every single person, since beginningless time, has never been the same. Every single eye has been put together in a unique permutation and combination with a different pattern, and that is just the human eye. So just within the human eye, there is infinite combinations of human eyes. Just within the crow eye, there's infinite combinations of crow eyes. And then with a human, there's a certain range between how far the eyes can see. With a hawk, for example, there's a range for how far a hawk eye can see. The varieties within not only every species, but in every single organ, right? And now you take one eye, and then you take a lung, you take a heart, and then you put it together in such a way that you have a functional human being who's able to get their work, who's able to do something in this world, to build a house, and to even reflect back onto their own reality. Now, think about kind of like the intelligence that is required to put this together. Is it some random intelligence? Is it just like a random blobs of, let me heart throw it there and lungs throw it, let's let it stick? It is amazingly complex how anything in this universe is put together. And not only is it well put together, but it has a relationship to something else that is also well put together. So we have particles of everything in this universe that is, if you look at the smallest level of that particle, like atoms, the atoms arrange themselves in such a way that they create, for example, cellulose. How many carbon? 6. How many hydrogen? 10. How many oxygen? 5. 6, 10, 5 to create cellulose. Why not 7 carbon? Why not 8 hydrogen? Or you should take, for example, water. How many molecules, atoms is water? H2 and 1 O. If you have H3, it's no longer water. What determines that it's going to be 3 and not 2? And then you have water, and then you have sodium chloride. You take one sodium, okay, atom, and you take one chlorine atom, and you have sodium chloride. Okay? Now you say, well, so what? Well, you combine H2O and you combine sodium chloride and you get salt. That's a lot of use for that. And can your body go without salt? No. And then you take the sodium chloride and you attach it onto sulfuric acid or acid rain. And now you have detergent, another use. So at every level, right, it has kind of a relationship to itself. But the moment you combine it to something else, it gains new attributes, new qualities, which have a different use to something else in this world. The food you eat comes from plants. The plants have a system to convert light energy into chemical energy through photosynthesis. They depend on the sun. The sun is a helium and hydrogen. The sun has a relationship to the plants. The plants create, or their molecules are arranged in such a fashion that they're able to convert carbon dioxide into oxygen, which you need. And then every plant has a different nutritional value. One plant has vitamin A, vitamin C, orange, spinach, you have iron. And now you have a body that needs vitamin C and needs iron. And those plants feed the animals. They support the ecosystem. Now, if there is so much connection between everything in this universe, your body, the air you breathe, the plants that you eat, the nutritional values of each plant, the sun, if there is a connection between all of these things, then what does this mean? Then whoever created the sun had to also know about how to create the plant. Whoever created the plant also has to know about how to create the human body, which requires the plant. Whoever created the human body also has to know how to create a means of communication, like an intelligent communication, so that this human being can be exposed to a pramana through which hearing can ascertain its own nature. Now, can a human being ever know this? Can a human being kind of ever figure out what is the nature of, or like who put all this together? Can we ever figure this out? Because all we can do is we can just look under a microscope and kind of see particles, particles working together. But can we ever figure out who created this intelligence that intelligently puts all particles together at every mithya level? This is what the scientists, or where the scientists stop. They will tell you, certainly, table, wood, molecules, atoms, proton, neutron, electron, quarks. But then why do you need Vedanta? What value does Vedanta add that science cannot give you? What Vedanta shows you is you need to look at those forms. What arranges those particles at the smallest level of the atoms to produce a molecule such as sodium chloride, which is going to be salt later when it combines with water? What combines specifically cellulose and lignin so that it produces the wood in this world? At every level, we can see there's a putting together. You following me? At every level, there is a putting together, but what is negatable? The mithya form. So table is. Look at this. Table exists. So the existence ticked. Now, wood is. Wood is ticked. But then what combines the woods together? Lignin and cellulose. Have we decided that? No, we just come into a world where you have cellulose molecules and lignin molecules combined together. So what combined those molecules together? Intelligence. It's not a random putting together. So table negated, wood negated. Now those particles you can also negate, those lignin and cellulose, but they are arranged, aren't they? They are arranged. So intelligence remains. Not only is there intelligence, but there's also existence. Now you go smaller, you go at the atomic level. What combines 6C, carbon, 10 hydrogen, and 10 oxygen? What chooses that number? Is it a random putting together? Intelligence. Therefore, intelligence remains at that level also. But I can also negate the carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen if I look deeper. Now it's just a matter of quarks. Now, what chooses that is going to be a certain quark up and certain quark down to produce a new electron and a proton? Because every electron and proton that makes up the atom also is made up of something even smaller. So at every level, we have two things: existence and intelligence. Can you see this why? Existence and intelligence. Because at every level, there's an intelligent putting together to create the next level upwards. And you combine that level intelligently together to create the next level upwards. And at every level, there is a function to something else. So two things remain: intelligence, because of which the forms are what they are, and existence that gives the forms their existence. So if there's only two things, then what does this mean? What's then the relationship between intelligence and awareness, or is existence? Because that's the only two things that are there. Because that's the only two things that are there. I was able to negate the wood, negate the table, negate the atoms, negate the molecules, negate the quarks, But what can I not negate?
Self-existing.
Existence and intelligence at every single level. This is why we say existence, intelligence has no existence apart from Drik. The relationship to understand this is in Chandogya Upanishad, there's a nice metaphor. They say, what's the relationship between this intelligence and awareness? And I say it's very simple. It's like salt inside an ocean, right? Now, salt inside an ocean, if I put some salt in water, where is that salt? Can you see it? It's invisible. Does it mean it's not there? No, it's very much there. So the intelligence never has its existence apart from the final reality. That's why we say Maya has no existence apart from awareness. They are inseparable. So intelligence having no existence apart from awareness, in the presence of awareness, intelligence manifests the universe according to different laws and orders in which all of the intelligent putting together are operating and interfacing together in the past, in the present, and in the future. And this intelligence we call Ishvara. Where is this intelligence?
Where is it not?
Yeah. Where is this? If this intelligence is the cause of the universe, which is projecting this universe right now, it's projecting your body, it's projecting your heart, your brain cells. Are you dictating where your brain cells are going to fire and wire? Are you dictating how the food is going to get digested when the food is in the stomach? It's happening on its own because there's an intelligence. What happens when the food enters the stomach? Release certain enzymes and start to digest the food. I don't do any part whatsoever in that whole creation. Yeah, I like this example in chapter 7 of the Bhagavad Gita, verse 7. They have a very nice example of beads and threads, if you heard, beads and threads. So the example is this intelligence, which is invisible. It's kind of like the thread around whom there are these beads, many, many beads. And the beads are the forms. They're the forms that are manifest, like you're one bead, this is one bead, the heart is one bead, the bird is one bead, right? The tree is one bead. Everything's just one bead. And all of these beads are strung around the same thread. Now, where is our focus? Our focus is on the beads. We're unable to see the very thread which is connecting all of the beads together. So if kind of like I have if I push one bead, because they're all strung around, if I push one bead, they're all strung around the same thread, then what happens? There's a rippling effect. It comes back to me kind of like that picture over there. It comes back to me eventually. I may not know why, but it does come back. And this thread is what they want to compare to all of the laws in which these beads operate. One of them is, for example, is the gravity, right? So you don't kind of see gravity, but objects, physical objects in space are, governed by gravity in one way or the other. Or the laws such as the psychological laws. So do you define what happens when you make, when there's someone lies? Suppose someone kind of says a lie. Do you define that you're going to feel hot and a little bit red and a little bit shameful? Do you choose that? Okay, now that I have lied, I'm going to feel warm in my body and embarrassed. It happens on its own. That's an order, the invisible law that is governing what happens when a form interacts with the world in a certain manner. There are laws that are set up in which all of these intelligently put together particles operate, and when they have a certain relationship, there's a certain effect that happens. And that effect is like this thread, which dictates, which defines what happens when every putting together operates with another putting together, okay? So, and what other laws do we have? We have biological laws. We have the entire plant kingdom. The plant kingdom is, botany, study botany. This is huge in itself, in intelligence there. You see in the Venus flytrap, this little thing that closes when there's a mosquito, it lands. And this thing is so intelligent because every time it closes with its claws, that takes a lot of energy. So it's programmed to only close when the feet of the mosquito or the fly tap it around 5 or 6 or 7 times. Because then it reinsures that the mosquito is indeed here for some time. Because a mosquito can come and go, therefore it saves its energy. A bee goes onto the field. And it's programmed to know what particular flower to pollinate. It knows how deeply to claw in itself into the stamen, I believe it is, and extract that nectar. And then it brings that nectar and also uses that for its food. And it creates its metabolism is acid and alcohol. Its metabolism produces acid and alcohol. And from acid and alcohol, which comes from the food that it eats, from the plants, from this acid and alcohol, it produces the material to produce the wax. Now, how is the wax structured? Hexagonal, right? 6 shapes. So how does a bee know this? Does it read a manual? So for the bee, this information is not hidden through Avarana Shakti. It's given this information. So now if you look at the entire structure of the bee's, how do they call it? The bee's hive, the bee's hive, right? So now you have the beehive, right? The hexagonal, the 6 shapes put together. That whole structure depends on the secretion of the bees to create that wax. The wax depends on the metabolism of the bee, alcohol and acid. Alcohol and acid depends on the plants it eats. The plants it eats depends on the soil. The soil depends on a well-pollinated, well-furnished, fertile ground. Fertile ground, how many years did this take to turn from molten rock once upon a time? 4.6 billion years. Only just lava, molten rock. And then 4.6 billion years, we had the first singular organism, single cell organism, the simplest life form possible, evolving to such an extent that it took several billions of years to turn into a multicellular organism. And the multicellular organism eventually evolved to a simple amoeba. A simple amoeba turned into something more complex, having the fins, having the vertebra. The vertebra eventually evolved into something even more complex to get out of the ocean and learn how to use the oxygen for survival. How many billions of years did it take to create this body? And how many changes did it take from the simplest single cell organism to put itself together to create a heart, which is programmed to pump around 80 beats per minute? And then to evolve into a lung, which is very different from a heart, because the lung is able to take oxygen and convert, to disperse that throughout the body. So its function is programmed to do something very different than the heart. The kidney to purify the blood, right? To clean the blood, very different function from the heart and from the spleen, from the liver. And then you put all of these functions together, and they all work in a symbiosis. They all need each other, working in a perfect symbiosis to create a human being, a body, which can then look outside and say, I need spinach to keep sustaining this organism. I also need vitamin C, and I also need proteins. Putting together human being, putting together plants, putting together the relationship between plants and the rains. If you look at our oceans, they are salty, a lot of salt. Now, nature has a system to purify the salt. How does it do this? Through heat. It evaporates the water, goes into the clouds, through precipitation, falls onto the ground, onto the mountains, and it collects into rivers. And those rivers attract wildlife. And that builds a sustainable wildlife so that it can evolve. And the system is made in such a way that that water always evaporates again and finds itself back into the same ocean, so that the ocean never depletes itself. Did you do this? And the entire system depends on the sun, depends on the clouds, and how far do the clouds travel up into the atmosphere? Just the right distance, so they're able to hold that water vapor until a moment comes for them to fall down and supply the right water, the water for the wildlife in that region. And when the water falls down, it attracts wildlife and it creates homes. And those homes are able then to, advance, evolve slowly. And when they evolve slowly, you have an entire ecosystem that gets built around that one area, like in safari in Africa. When the elephants come around the rivers, every year they have to migrate, I think, north, because of when the water starts to come, south. They know exactly where to walk. The birds know exactly where to fly when they're migrating during seasons. The bees know exactly which flowers to pollinate and then come back to the beehive and do a little dance for the rest of the bees to recognize as to which flower I pollinated. The bees understand this. Intelligence, at every level that you look, is there intelligence there? And this entire intelligence is what we call Ishvara. So if this intelligence is that which produces everything and puts everything together, including you now, capable of listening and understanding the English language, and puts everything together, then where is this intelligence not? Can you find a place where this intelligence is not? The whole thing is nothing but intelligence. Because at the level of table, it's gone, right? Table is gone because if I come to the wood, table is gone. I come to the molecules, the wood is gone. I come to the atoms, the molecules are gone. I come to the quarks, the atom is gone. So where is a form in this universe? Where is a form in this universe then? Where is the wood here? Because when you look into the wood, what do you find? You can't find it there, can you? But what can you find? The intelligence putting together that form and making it what it is. You understand this? If you zoom in right now, I can't find the table. I can't find the wood. I can't find the molecules. I can't find the atoms. But what can I find at every single level? Intelligence putting together every single mithya level. At every mithya level, there's a putting together. So now, if you think about the universe through the eyes of this knowledge, is there such thing as form, or it's only intelligence? It's kind of like in your dream, isn't it? When you dream, what does your mind do in a dream? Your mind has it's called Nidra Shakti. What is Nidra Shakti? It is the capacity to produce a world. Whose world? Your world. And this power during dream, when it produces a world, it produces everything, makes it very real, doesn't it? And it makes it so real that you get emotionally involved inside your own creation, right? Now, who created this world? You did. What part of you created this world? Your capacity to, your mind, your capacity to project an entire world that you created. And then it creates a character called dream character. And this dream character interfaces with other dream characters, and they have quarreling, arguments. How did this universe come? And they're all looking at this world and they're saying, who created this? And they say, Allah, Krishna, Vishnu, Brahma, Jesus, God Almighty. And they start to have fights around. The language, the people, the mountains, the knowledge, the whole thing is your projection, is your creation. None of them have an existence apart from you, the one in whom there's a capacity to project the world. And then in the dream comes a wise fella. And they walk up very calmly and they say, what are you arguing about? And they say, we can't decide who created this world. And they're all very emotional now. There's tears coming, anger, it's all very real. And this fella, with a very calm composure, comes over and says, why don't you sit down and let me show you a little bit about, this amazing vision that we are teaching. And it says there is this consciousness, the reality. Consciousness is the reality. And what is this reality? The reality because of which you're aware that this argument is taking place right now. It just lights up your mind. It lights up your thoughts. It lights up your knowledge, whatever you know or don't know. It just lights it all up. And this very consciousness has a capacity to project this universe of names and forms, differences, millions and billions of differences. And they all have a different interaction with each other according to their personalities, of course. And the whole thing seems very real. And for how long has this been going on, says one of the participants in the dream, since beginningless time. What do you mean since beginningless time? Well, it's very simple. Because if reality is consciousness, and consciousness is unborn, and Maya has no existence apart from that which is unborn, then Maya is by definition what? Unborn also. And what does Maya do? It simply projects the universe. Why? Because that's just what it does. That's just how it is. Can it be any different? No. It's always been like that. And when it projects the universe, as it's doing right now, this is a projection, by the way, right now, it produces jivas, sentient beings, which consist of 3 bodies. And the sentient beings are trying to discover what is the nature of all of this. And then the wise fella comes over and says, it's very simple. This is a projection. It's very incidental. Just like the mother produces the child. It's an incidental, it's a blessing of consciousness. Consciousness is blessed to produce the universe. And when it does, it produces this right now. And you say, well, how do I get out of this? Who says, well, there is a way. Not that you really get out of anything, because the whole thing is in you. The whole dream is happening in you. So you're not really getting out of anything. You're just removing the veil that's making you recognize that right now this is the absolute reality. These forms are the absolute reality. When in fact, right now, there's a reality that is, for a person that knows not this reality, oblivious. So all they can see is just forms. Oh, there's a person speaking. There's a person listening. Oh, there's a wall. There are pictures. But right now, the reality is this happening here. There's nothing else other than this, because the whole thing is a projection. The projection has no existence apart from the final reality. And what if there's only one reality here, then are you different from this reality? So then what makes us put our focus on why do we miss this reality, this intelligence, which has no existence apart from consciousness? Why do we miss it? Why do we miss it?
Ignorance.
Huh?
It's being ignorance.
Because because our focus is on the forms. We've never been taught. There was never a wise fella in one's life who came up and said, here's what's really happening right now. You think you're a real person, but you're just one of the many, many, many projections that is being manifesting right now. No different than anything else. Nothing special, nothing non-special, just one of the many projections. The whole thing is happening in one reality right now. And how do you know this one reality? How do you know this one reality? You're aware. Self-revealing I. You know that you're self-revealing. Do I have to tell you that you're conscious? So that consciousness, that self-revealing I, that is the one from whom this Maya comes out. So if everything is one reality, then by definition, you should be able to know that reality right now, if everything is one reality. And then the next question I ask you, then where is that one reality? And your answer is? It's here now. And how is it known directly? I am. And then how do you explain all of these forms? You bring in the teaching, Maya Shakti. What's the difference between being an owner of something, like owning something, and being a trustee? You know what a trustee is? A trustee. When you're like entrusted, right? You're entrusted something to take care of it. Now, what determines this attitude between ownership, like mine, and trusteeship, as in I've been entrusted? Okay? So ownership is when, I think I own it. But you don't even own, for example, your house. We buy a house and we say, my home. But, that home has been inhabited much longer than you've been on that soil. And what is exactly yours? Is it the pipes? Is it the bricks, right? Which I didn't even create. I don't even know how it's created. And, even after the body goes, someone else is going to own that house. So when I say I own something, it's for a very short time, in reference to this grand, scheme of things. In this vast periods of time, I don't really own anything. So whatever ownership I think I have is actually, it's not really ownership at all. Because ownership means you created it. Right? I own this body. That means I created this body. But you didn't. You just kind of go, wah, mama puts food in your mouth and it grows. And then we just keep rinse and repeat for the rest of our lives, right? The hunger comes in, we go downstairs, put food, and you're off to class. And then how many processes are going on to disperse those nutrients and replenish your, prana, your inhalation, exhalation, right? Your digestion, excretion, circulation. How many of this is going on in the background, totally oblivious to this fact? I just sit down and do, my part. So there's no question of ownership here because I didn't create anything. So that's why we have a different term called trusteeship. Now, what is trusteeship? Trusteeship is like when, you have a yard to take care of. And you sit in your yard and you're entrusted sort of to take care of it because you want to take care of, you have a kind of an objective relationship to this yard, right? You're entrusted to be responsible to take care of it. You're not kind of attached to the yard. So now if you understand that all that is here is Ishvara, this intelligence, manifesting as this world, right now I'm talking about, not tomorrow or yesterday, in this moment, and this intelligence has no existence apart from consciousness and existence. If all that is here is this intelligence, including this body, because this intelligence is manifesting as this body, then the relationship starts to change. Not so much from ownership, but into trusteeship. I am entrusted this body to be used wisely. I am entrusted this body to be used according to what what is your pursuit. You may have many pursuits in this life, but when you come to the knowledge, you recognize your highest pursuit, your highest dharma, besides security and entertainments, as we discussed in the first session, is to understand what is the nature, who is my creator, right? What created this body? So therefore, if I didn't create this body, I was entrusted this body by whom? By Ishvara. Then immediately, the sense of I can abuse this body, that stops, because it's not my body. It's like a temple. You know, you take your shoes off before walking into a temple, because there's a certain respect for the creators of this temple, and I want to acknowledge that by by acting appropriately. So like this, when we understand that all there is here is God right now, intelligence, manifesting as these forms, the world, when we go out and we will see trees and water and we will see our rooms, right? You're just seeing materials. Materials put together, elements, periodic table of elements put together, right? To create metal, to create stone, to create tree, to create cloud, to create heat. The whole thing is just intelligence manifesting as different forms. I know it's much harder to, that's why I said yesterday, shopping, right? It's like, what, God? But the moment you go to nature, it becomes much easier. So maybe we'll stick to nature for now. And when your mind's very established, then there's no difference between outside and when you're inside the shopping mall. And this takes practice. So for now, we can talk about outside. And you see, wow, there's these interactions between the birds and the animals and the wind and the heat and the seasons, right? And the nutrition, and the bird knows where to hone in to get that fish. You can hone in. I saw this last year, and it picks up the fish, and sometimes it drops the fish, maybe teases the fish. And now every fish also is endowed with an eye sense. That's a nice, very example from one of the scriptures. Is when the fisherman throws the net into the ocean, and they open the net in front of their feet. Now, the closest fish in front of the feet is going to be usually picked up and thrown back into the ocean. What does this indicate? If you're close to the Lord, if you're close to the teaching, if you're close to the knowledge, the intelligence has such compassion for you that it spares you. It spares you from this samsara of rebirth, of coming back. Therefore, it's a very nice example of what it means to stay close to the truth, to stay close to God. Now, if all that is here is God, then how can I stay close to God? If all that is here is God, I'm always nothing but God here. But when it says stay close to God, what it means practically is stay close to the knowledge. Because as Nitin said, the moment we go back into the world, it tends to pull the mind back, right? Even though you intellectually know all that is here is God, obtaining as this world, it kind of feels like I'm distanced. So what do? We have a nice, we have prayers, we have communion with the Lord. My personal thing is I'm always having a conversation with God, always. It's a personal relationship that you have with this intelligence. When I'm outside, instead of seeing trees, I understand it's all intelligence. At every level, it's intelligence. And the moment that comes, the whole teaching comes at once. Usually I say, Om Tat Sat. It's my favorite mantra. I chant every single morning and evening. Om includes the three states. It can also include your three bodies. It can also include the three times, past, present, and future. It can also include, what else is three? Number three. Three states, three gunas. It can include whatever you prefer. But then you say, because of what are these three connected? Because of tat, because of intelligence. Connects the past, present, and the future. And that tat has no existence apart from sat. Om tat sat. This is like, I'm in love with this mantra. Chapter 17. If I don't do this, what happens? What does the mind do then? Brings back those orientations from here. Brings back those orientations. Oh, look, people walking, they don't know what they're doing, what bunch of, whatever, right? No. Om Tat Sat. Om Tat Sat. Constantly in meditation, Om Tat Sat. So I want to show this, that it's not just class. There needs to be some follow-up in the world. Whatever example you find close, that is the model through which we can for a moment see the world. Because we said to see the world in such a way, it requires consistent, right, repetition of that seeing. You need to see the world. Your mind is established to see it in an old way. So we need to start looking at it in a new way constantly until it becomes quite spontaneous. Okay? So it is practice. I'm not going to say just, hey, come to class and, problem solved. It is practice because our mind's orientations are so strong, they keep on spilling into the present and dictating how I perceive the world, despite having gone to the classes of, of this knowledge, of this wonderful tradition. We've got all of the technology in the world. Our lifestyle is significantly better than it used to be. We used to kick cans on the street for fun. Just visit the simple conversations. Nowadays, we've got VR, we've got the web, we've got computers, we've got so much opportunity, and yet mediocrity. I feel small, I feel inadequate. Depression, what went wrong? And this book made a very nice point, is we lost touch with divinity. The water is just water. The food is just food. I see some shows on TV. They have these food competitions. They treat food like just some toy, throw it left and right. And yet in the tradition, what do? Om Brahmarpanam, Om Brahmahavihi, Brahmagno, Brahmanahutam, Brahmevatena, Gantavyam. Right? So we say this food is God. The eater is God. The digestive fire is God. The maker of this food is God. The one who delivered this food is God. The ingredients are God. The one that's about to consume this food is God. The whole thing is God. So look at this. Every day we have an opportunity to firm up this knowledge. Opportunity lost. And all it takes is just 10 seconds for a little prayer before eating to solidify this knowledge. So again, there's something that can be incorporated in our life. So Ishvara, if you think about, if all that is here is God, whose laws and orders are impartial, they're unbiased. So it's not like I'm going to bless you, I'm going to punish you. It doesn't work like this. This is an old system of thinking. It doesn't just randomly bless and punish people. It just facilitates and delivers whatever results of actions are to come to you because of your own actions. So it's not like it punishes random people. It just delivers whatever this person has done in the past. That's how the law is. So if I understand that I'm not being punished, the world is not unfair to me, it's just whether I know why this is coming or not, I can at least have faith, shraddha, that this is coming from impartial order, unbiased order, which simply delivers the results of my actions, and knowing that it's coming from this infallible order, I can still have reverence from whence it comes. It comes from God. And therefore, I can have a different attitude about it. Rather than criticizing it and feeling small and feeling punished and feeling sorry for myself. Oh no, God doesn't like me. I'm so unlucky. Why me? None of this. It's impersonal. The order is impersonal. It's impartial. This means it doesn't have this sense of who I like and who I don't like. It just delivers according to your own actions. If I want a positive future, a successful future, then I apply actions consistent with that. And that's exactly what this order gives me. If I want a future that is dark and not so bright, then just relax into your own, habits. And the habits are going to take you down into a very kind of a rough path. So if all that is here is Ishvara, then it has a certain airbag. If I take divinity out, then what meaning is there in life? It's like just a mechanical process. One's doing this, the bad guys get all of the good things, the good guys, we suffer. You can't explain anyone's position. It's just kind of a blame game. But the moment I understand this order delivers a perfect cause-effect ratio, even if I don't see, it still delivers everything to everyone according to what you have done in the past, what you have done. And therefore, I don't need to blame, I don't need to get angry. I can say, okay, this has happened. How can I make most use of this? How can I put this to good use and remember the presence of Ishvara? This much can be done. And so this conversation will continue about what is Ishvara and how to relating with God, relating with Ishvara on a day-to-day basis. So this we will cover next session. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.